All right, let's talk about a really powerful tool for any C# developer, the prototype design pattern. Seriously, if you've ever had to create objects that are kind of complex or just, expensive to build, you're going to want to stick around for this. Think about it for a sec. How many times have you written code to spin up a new object, set all its properties, and then you just realize it's almost the exact same as one you already made? It feels super repetitive, right? Well, it turns out it's also not very efficient. Okay, so first up, let's really dig into the problem this whole pattern is trying to solve. We're going to look at the hidden costs of creating objects from the ground up every single time. So, picture this. You're building a cool graphic design app. Your user wants to add another circle to their canvas, and they want it to look exactly like the one they just made. Now, creating a brand new circle object could mean allocating memory, running some heavy constructor logic, maybe even hitting a database. And doing that again and again for every shape, that's a massive drain on your app's performance. And this whole from scratch approach, it leads to some real headaches. First, like we said, it's a resource hog. Second, it's not very flexible. What if you want just a tiny variation? You've got to build a whole new object just for that. And third, and this is a big one, it leads to so much duplicated code. And we all know what a nightmare that is to maintain. So, what's the alternative to this whole expensive process? Well, instead of building from scratch, we're going to start cloning. And this is where the prototype pattern really comes in and just changes the game completely. At its core, the prototype pattern is just beautifully simple. It's what we call a creational pattern, which just means it's all about how we make objects. Its main job? To create new objects, not by using a constructor, but by copying an existing object, the prototype. Think of it like this. You have your perfect, already configured circle in your design app. Instead of going through that whole manufacturing process again, you just tap that perfect circle on the shoulder and say, hey, can you make me another one just like you? It's just a way more direct and efficient way to get what you want. Now, let's see what this actually looks like in practice. Because when you put the code side by side, the difference is, well, it's pretty stark. This is where the elegance of the pattern really shines through. Just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got the standard way, calling the constructor with new circle. You might have a bunch of parameters in there, a lot of setup. But on the right, that's the prototype way. We've got our existing object, we call it original, and we just call clone on it. That's it. All that complex setup logic is totally gone from our client code. And that clone method, that's where all the magic is. All the heavy lifting, all the messy details of creating the object, it's all tucked away inside that one method. Your main program doesn't need to know how to build a circle anymore. It just has to know it can ask for a copy. Man, does that clean up your code. But, like any tool, it's not perfect. Nothing is. So let's get a more balanced picture here. The prototype pattern has some incredible strengths, but it also comes with one key challenge you absolutely have to know about. Okay, the pros are pretty compelling. You get really efficient cloning, which is a huge performance win. But the real power move here is the customization and avoiding subclasses. Imagine you have a complex user configuration object. To make a new trial user, you don't need a whole trial user subclass. Nope. You just clone the default setup and then tweak that copy at runtime to set an expiration date. It's so flexible and it keeps your class hierarchy from getting all tangled up. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There is one major challenge that comes with cloning, and it all has to do with how deep that copy really goes. And this right here, this is the most crucial part. You have to understand the difference between a shallow copy and a deep copy. A shallow copy is fast, but if your object contains other objects, the copy just points back to the original inner objects. So what happens? You change the inner object in your clone, and you accidentally change it in the original too. Ouch. A deep copy avoids this mess by creating new instances of everything, but it's way more complex to write. Figuring out which one you need is the biggest hurdle with this pattern for sure. So, with all that in mind, how do you know when to actually reach for the prototype pattern in your own projects? Let's break it down into a simple, practical guide. First, let's be super clear on what this pattern isn't. Unlike a factory or a builder, it doesn't create new things from scratch. Its entire job is cloning, and it's basically the polar opposite of a singleton, which is designed to prevent multiple instances. Prototype is all about making more copies, easily. Knowing this helps you pick the right tool for the job. So here it is, your practical checklist. If the answer to any of these questions is a yes, you should seriously think about using the prototype pattern. Is creating the object slow or a pain? Do you need to make copies and then tweak them on the fly? Are you about to create a dozen subclasses that are 99% the same? If so, yep, cloning is probably your best friend here. And that pretty much wraps up our explainer. The big takeaway is this. The prototype pattern gives you a powerful, efficient alternative to just calling new all the time. It can really simplify your code and give you a nice performance boost. So, I'll leave you with this question. Take a look at your own code. What's that one valuable object in your project that's just begging to be cloned? Think about it.